Hello, fellow Voyagers. Jess here with Odyssey Human, here today to talk about how being realistic is holding you back. Welcome to the channel. This is the place where we help you hack through the jungles of consciousness and discover the hidden treasures inside of you. Now, my friends, it's all there, ready and waiting to be activated by you. We're going to talk about that more today. Thanks for joining us. If that sounds good, please subscribe. We'd love to have you on the channel with us. I took a little break. I went on vacation, so thanks for bearing with me, but we're back making content and dropping shorts on Mondays too. If you haven't checked those out, definitely check out the shorts on Mondays. Being realistic. This is something I have never been good at. I've never been good at being realistic. And I want to talk today about really, you owe yourself the excitement and fun of strange, unusual, unexpected manifestations, right? Of creating a reality where your truth is stranger than fiction, where amazing things happen to you, they come out of the blue, they take you by surprise, and it's awesome. Like, you really owe that to yourself. And the more and more I have been doing this and letting go of the how, because I think even though we've been told of try not to picture the how, I think all of us, in the spirit of realism, have this idea of how things are going to go, right? We project a simulation. We imagine things in our mind about how things are going to go, how our day is going to go, how the next week is going to go, how our month is going to go. And then we project that experience into time, space, and then it becomes our reality. And so I want to talk more about how we do this and why it's fun and how to really unleash your full power in this, because then you're going to have the craziest stories. And I have some stories to share with you about how I've been doing this just in the last couple months. I've been getting better and better at it, of bringing in the things that I want in really fun, surprising ways that I'm like, heck yeah. It just brings this element of life that's very juicy and fun and gives you joy. So, and think about, if we really go back historically and we think about, being realistic, what is being realistic as a term? What does that even mean? Being realistic is really about limiting ourselves. It's a very sneaky word that feels safe, that feels socially acceptable, for limiting ourselves, for expecting what already exists, what we can already perceive. And we do this, we are realistic, we're told to be realistic by people around us. We learn realism, right? When we're children, we're not realistic. We're imaginative, we're creative, we're out there, we're goofy, we're strange, we're weird, we're fun, and then it's kind of conditioned out of us, although some of us were fortunately able to hold on to a little bit and grow it again, a snippet, a clipping. And so bringing this back, infusing this back into adult life, I think is a practice that is very, easier than you think. Returning to that childlike state and expecting things to be fun and surprising and bring you joy. Yeah, so in the big scheme of then, being realistic, this is something we all do to ourselves. We limit ourselves. We try to stay in the safe zone of like, well, if I'm realistic, I won't be let down. I won't be disappointed. I won't be considered delusional or crazy or whatever, labels or expectations we have attached to venturing outside of being realistic. And so we limit ourselves. We don't give ourselves permission to be fantastical, to be idealistic or optimistic or whatever realm you want to inhabit beyond realism. But this ability to do this is really what has pushed humanity forward. If you think about all the great creators and inventors and visionaries from history, they were highly unrealistic. They felt their way into realities that didn't yet exist. They saw a picture for the world and they served that. Think about Nikola Tesla. Think about Martin Luther King Jr. Think about any of the people who have really set the stage for change. Even 50 years ago, if I told you that, 50 years from now, we're all going to be carrying around these tiny little computers that fit in our hand, and they access a wealth of information through an invisible network, like in the sky, like just through the air. Like, they connect and talk and gather information from a completely invisible network that just exists in a cloud. If I told someone that 50 years ago, they would look at me like I was crazy. But yet that is the reality that we now live in. And when you describe it, it still sounds really fantastical. And so keeping in mind that it wasn't, people who really bring new stuff into reality, who help usher in exciting new things in life, and this can be you. They do it by believing in the unbelievable, and not limiting themselves with being realistic, not limiting themselves, because there is so much potential. Your desires, who you want to be, how you want to be it, what you see for yourself can arrive to you and be generated through you in so many ways, infinite, exciting, unexpected ways. Like, it really can happen like that and not in the normal paths. And so when you think about an infinite number of solutions for your desire, why would you limit yourself to what's realistic, which is probably one or two things, right? There's one or two realistic pathways that this bridge of incidents, this thing could happen to me, happen for me, happen through me. Why limit? Like, there's so much more excitement out there for you. So, and this is about evolution. It's about evolution. It's the call of your own evolution. This is what inspired that first fish to crawl up on land. Do you think that fish was being realistic? Heck no. No, he wasn't. So he was being a visionary. It's this pull. That's the evolutionary pull, is a commitment to your vision, a commitment to what is unseen and not there, so that it can be seen, it can be brought through, it can be created. I mean, it's already created, but it can be created in your perceptual experience. Let me quantify that. It feels as though you're creating it, but really everything in perception is there. You are just turning your attention towards more options, right? Opening yourself up for more options to perceive all these fun ways that it can actually come through, and then you can experience it in sensory reality. So, you owe it to yourself. Just checking my notes. I want to give you 3 stories now of how I did this just in the last few days, weeks. My first story comes from, it was so random and weird. I love this story. I started a keto diet. I've been eating a lot of chicken wings because I like chicken wings. It's a nice break from vegetables. And so I really needed a rack, like a wire rack to cook the chicken wings on. I did not own one. I thought about buying it. I thought about going to a thrift store. And then I just said to myself, I am going to get I will procure one somehow, whether I was out and I picked one up or whatever. I just knew I would get one. It's a pretty simple thing to acquire. That same evening, as I went for a walk around my block, and I take the same walk every night. I walk around the block in the same direction, the same way, same streets. There's one major intersection that I walk through, and in the middle of that intersection, in my walkway, this is a 4-way cross-section, crosswalk. In the middle of the crosswalk was a wire rack. It was a wire rack. It must have fallen off of someone's grill because it had a little bit of rust on it, not enough to be prohibitive. But it was the perfect size for a sheet pan so that I could literally, I was like, oh my God, I would have never expected in a million years to get my wire rack in the middle of the street. And it was in good enough condition that I just grabbed it. As I was walking past it, I snatched it up, I took it home, I used a little bit of foil on it, and it shined right up, and it was like new. I was shocked. I would have never, ever, ever in a million years thought that I would acquire and manifest and experience the coming in of my wire rack in the middle of the frickin' street. And so that's one example. And it made me feel amazing. It made me feel powerful. It made me feel like, yeah, I am generating all of this. And here it is. Like, it literally fell out of the sky and onto my path. Another way that I've done this recently is I frequently find money laying around. Surprisingly, also while I'm on vacation. This is something that happens while I take vacations with my family, right? We typically go somewhere warm in the wintertime. We happen to be somewhere warm in the last couple weeks, and again, I could sense, again, I kind of get a sense when this is about to happen, when there's about to be cash on the ground waiting for me, where I find it, nobody else is around, it's mine now. This happened to me once in Florida, and then last week in Georgia, it happened again. We caught in the middle of Hurricane Helene and happened to be looking for ice or limes or something random and decided to go into a liquor store that didn't really have power quite yet, but they were still opening and functioning, and there on the ground was $20. There it was again. What happened is that I believe that about myself. I know that about myself. And even though it hadn't happened in a little while, right, finding money on the ground, I still believed in it. I was like, oh, this is completely possible for me. That happened again. And then the third thing, Helene was a little bit scary, a little bit traumatic. The power was out. There was tornado sirens. We didn't get it where we were as bad as others. My thoughts are with you. My intentions are with you for if you're watching from somewhere that was affected by that hurricane. But the power was out in our area, and we were not close. We were about 30 minutes from the next major city where we were in Georgia. And so a lot of the street lights were out. It was very stressful driving to try to get to the city. And our power had been out for a couple of days, and it was warm. It was sticky in Georgia. It was uncomfortable for a while. We didn't think we could flush the toilets. It was a very uncomfortable situation we were in. And so we decided to drive towards the city to try just for a few hours to escape the heat, find somewhere that did have electricity, have a meal, and then come home. And as we were, this archipelago of different islands on the Georgia coast, we were driving through several different islands to get to the city, and all of them were without power. It was optimistic when we got to the city, it had power, but our island was kind of the farthest out. And so in my mind, I felt the realistic urge of thinking, oh, why would, all these other islands need to get power before us? Like, they're just next in the line. Why would it jump right to, having power in the city and then having power on our little island and nothing in the middle got fixed? But I caught myself and I said, you know what? Anything is possible. Like, anything is possible. Really adopting that mindset and believing it in, like latching on and believing it in. It to me feels like a nestling into a reality. You nestle down into it and you don't let go. No matter what the outer layers of realism, my logic in the situation, I let it go. I'm like, okay, well, that could be true, but it also could be true that, where we are is a tourist area and they want to get the power back on really quickly. From me having that thought and then just releasing it, moving on with my day, it was not even 12 hours later that power was back on our island. During the last few days we were there, there was no power on the islands between. They were still without power. So I don't have any logical explanation as to why they would have turned power on an outer island and not the ones in the middle. But there you go. There is another way where your belief in the unbelievable is really what creates. It's what draws it in. It's what summons it. It's what allows you the ability to perceive it. Everything is there in perception. All potentials are there in perception. If I had really latched onto logic as much as I had latched onto my belief in not getting power back, if I had latched onto that, that probably would have been our experience for the final few days of the vacation, was also being without power while power was restored to those other islands first. All potentials exist in your perception already. It's just that you are allowing yourself, right? When you remove your own limitations, your own lack of permission, your own inhibitions towards believing something that's outside what you would expect, outside of logic, outside of being realistic, you allow those to come in. And so what I want you to do, in order to do this, I want you to open up your attention. This is how we do it. Be open with your attention to noticing things that are unusual, things that are outside the norm, things that could be considered, stranger than fiction. Be open to that. Open yourself up of like, I am open to anything could happen. When you find yourself closing down, like the feeling of being realistic, it feels like a smallness. It really does. You can feel the contraction in your body, in your mindset. When you feel that, be like, you know what? Anything is anything could happen right now. Really, anything could happen. Remember that, and more magic, more surprise, more fun will come into your life. It will come through who you are being, what you are believing, and you'll find yourself reaching higher and higher for things that you never thought you could accomplish. I promise you. Try it out. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment below. I'm happy to engage with you. And if you need a tool to help yourself, help your peace of mind, make your mind a more pleasant and amicable place, grab that below. It's always in the description box for free for you whenever you need it. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.